We're so back, baby. So last time we were here talking about Bridgerton, I ran down season 3 begrudgingly. Basically, TLDR, thought it sucked ass. I'll link it down below, as well as the other videos I have done thus far in my series of Bridgerton, the story so far, which is basically the first 3 seasons plus the prequel Queen Charlotte. I've talked about all of those, and they're easily organized in a playlist for your watching ease from Otis to newest, in case you wanted to watch it in order. I also just prefer when playlists are in that order. I don't know why more people don't do that when they make playlists. But TLDR, that season sucked to the extent that I barely finished it. I actually didn't watch all of it for maybe a year or 2 after it came out. And then I only begrudgingly watched it again for this series. And it was so bad that I thought Bridgerton had lost all possible sauce and that I might not even watch season 4. But I was curious what they were going to do for season 4, if they'd be able to reclaim my interest. And I will say, they did. They did something that is very hard to do. Usually shows have their worst season at season 3, and then it just gets progressively worse. My theory has always been that they plan for a first season, a second season if they're lucky, but third, they're kind of just around and things get moved around a lot. And so it usually goes downhill from there. Very few shows I find that get into season 3 don't have at least a major hiccup at that point. But anyway, and this was definitely it. Colin, Penelope, no sauce, no chemistry, story was ass, bad. But this season, we are talking about the Bridgerton, the second son, the chaotic bisexual Benedict Bridgerton. So I've said in this series that I have at one point in my life read all of the Bridgerton books. Honestly, don't remember much of the minutia because it was a long time ago, and I do have the books, but I've been too busy reading the book that inspired the movie Pillion. Book is depressing. The book is very depressing. Movie, gay as hell. I really liked it. It was the first movie experience where I was sitting in a theater and I watched someone eat ass. And I was like, this is the cinema that I want to see. The fact that I've seen so many gay movies and nobody's eating ass is actually perplexing. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, the Bridgerton books. I read the books, don't really remember them, even though I've since repurchased them and whatnot. But I did remember this book. Maybe a little better than the other ones. The Benedict novel is called An Offer from a Gentleman, and the book itself is loosely based off of Cinderella, which was a thing I didn't know beforehand, but upon reading I was like, oh, it's Cinderella, interesting. And the book I don't remember disliking. I figured it was in line with much of the other type of bodice ripper type stories, but I did remember a few key components that they did keep intact for this season. So it was very funny seeing everybody else react to those things that I was like, oh, so they're gonna keep that. Okay. And I say all that to say, actually, I really like this season. It has definitely reworked my hierarchy of Bridgerton related on-screen media, because now from best to worst, we have Queen Charlotte, season 2, season 4, season 1, and then way far away from that bullshit that was season 3. It's nice to know that we were able to get that at the place that I feel like it's appropriate. It is the most middle of all of the Bridgerton seasons, and that's not necessarily bad. Entertaining, it's the pining, it's romantic, it's frustrating, all the things that you expect in a good bodice ripper or like work that is adapted to screen. Also, this season is the first season that we so directly talk about class in this way. We've dabbled in it a little bit in the past seasons where Eloise meets the lower class boy and she's like kind of feeling that out or whatever, and her relationship to her family's prestige and money and privilege, and then meeting the everyday man and realizing that their lives are very different. But it had never been the subject of the core relationship of a season of Bridgerton until this one. Because this is an adaptation of Cinderella, it is the story of Bridgerton falling in love with a mysterious woman who is actually a maid. She has a wicked stepmother and 2 stepsisters, you know, Cinderella. And this season does revive some of my belief in, if that makes sense. That's so heavy. I had lost hope for Bridgerton after season 3. It was so bad. I was like, is this what the rest of the show is going to be? But it seems that we've had quite a bit of a return to form with season 4. It was painful. I cried. I laughed. Not as much about the central storyline and the central love interest, but I did quite like the subplots that go through, even though I'm probably going to glaze over them for the sake of brevity in this video, but those are really cool. It won me over for Benedict, who I never felt one way or another about. I was either neutral and occasionally annoyed by him, but for the most part, I found him fine. And that's kind of him in general. There's a lot of scrutiny and some unpacking of his identity as a second son, so a replacement. At the beginning of this season, the eldest son, Anthony, has already given birth to a son, so Benedict isn't even there as a spare son in case something were to happen to Anthony or they couldn't have children for whatever reason. And so kind of unpacking a little bit more of why he's kind of flighty and irresponsible, though frustrating to my Capricorn heart. There is something endearing about him in the sense that maybe because he's a second son, he didn't feel as much pressure to present in the ways that are expected of men of the ton at the time, especially if he were a first son. But that's not just in relation to his bisexuality or his flippantness. It's also to some degree to him struggling with who he is as a man, I guess, if not an heir. And I was curious to see how they would play around with that in relation to him having a romantic relationship with a woman. Curious and concerned that maybe they'd basically say he not gay no more because he's with a woman, which is two clauses that make no sense in this context at all. Because A, he was never gay, he was bisexual. And if bisexual people end up in a heterosexual relationship, it negates, quote unquote, that bisexuality, which is not true. So I was curious to see how they were going to handle that. And I think they handled it fine, pleasantly enough. Basically, it wasn't that big of a deal. So we are introduced to that Benedict as he leads into a relationship with this new mysterious character, Sophie Peck. But before we get into that, hi, I'm Kendall. New around here, welcome. Not new around here. What is up, home skillet biscuit? What y'all been up to? I've been watching a lot of like couples therapy and couples therapy related works because Netflix also has like their own version of couples therapy. Do I plan to make a video? I don't know. But now that I've said that, I'm sure a lot of people will want me to. We'll see. Toodle-oodle, that's what I've been up to. And so, yeah, let's send it over to Admiral Kennie, and then we can get on with season 4. Hello, everyone. This is Admiral Kennie. And today's video is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon, known to come out with banger after banger after banger, has done it again, my friends. And just in time for Mother's Day, so that you can indulge your mother in some premium audio quality at the fraction of the price of other premium audio brands. These, I feel like a 2016 beauty influencer. These are the Raycon bone conduction headphones that are a great option for those of you who are running around town, maybe running around town after kids, or like me, I am currently doing some spring cleaning, so I'm in the process of where it actually looks worse than when I first started. These are able to hang on to me comfortably, not going in my ear canal, so that I can listen to hours and hours of Temptation Island while cleaning out clothes that I forgot I had. Just like my other favorites from Raycon, the Essential Open Earbuds, these also don't go into the ear canal, so you're able to hear things around you for like safety reasons, like if you need to hear your children because they're a little too quiet for some reason, so you know they're doing something. Same with pets. That's how I know when Rusted in something she ain't got no business being in. And they're built for all day use. 13-hour battery life. They're waterproof and dustproof, so they can survive through sweat, rain, and sandy beach runs. You're sure to love your Raycons, but if you don't, they have a 30-day happiness guarantee, so no risk at all, baby. Give them a try. Go ahead, celebrate the moms in your life. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/KennieBC to get 15% off the bone conduction headphones. Big thanks to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get on to the debauchery. This season begins with Violet Bridgerton. She is going to be hosting the first ball at the top of the social season, which is a deviation from the norm. The person that would usually host the first ball is Lady Donbury, but notably she's decided that she does not want to do that. So instead, Dowager Viscountess Bridgerton will be hosting a masquerade ball at the top of the season, and we are reunited with the Bridgerton family and extended partners and whatnot. Francesca, John, and Eloise are back from Scotland. Penelope and Colin have their cute fat baby, who is now Lord Featherington. Hyacinth is at the brink of her own debut, but she is very excited about it in a way that we haven't really seen from the other girls in the Bridgerton family. Everyone's been a little nervous, apprehensive, but Hyacinth, who is still a year below debut, seems to be particularly excited for it. Notably, there's no Anthony and Kate at this juncture because they are off to India with their newborn. So in the meantime, this season is more so the frustrations of Benedict, as he's been put in the position where, as the second son, he can't fuck off the way that he usually does. He has to take on the duties of a Viscount because though the heir is born, he is still shitting diapers. But despite him having a new and intense responsibility on his shoulders in a way that he has never quite felt before, he still struggles with his vices, namely his partying, I don't know if this is a problem so much as it is maybe not best for keeping some low profile, but he also has a lot of sex. He drinks a lot. He's fucking and sucking and drinking and partying, and he seems to struggle to maintain the level of responsibility that Anthony was so keen on. So much so that Violet goes to find him, only to find him butt naked with two random other butt naked women in the room. If you recall from the other seasons, to this point, we don't really know much about Benedict other than he's carefree, debaucherous, someone who definitely follows his fancies. He's a free spirit in a way that Anthony has never quite been. I'd imagine in that context, that sudden increase of responsibility is something that's weighing on him even more so than if he were maybe more like Anthony in the beginning. Now that he is performing for all intents and purposes as the Viscount in Anthony's absence, his dalliances are particularly not great because you can put quite a shame on the Bridgerton name if you, again, out there fucking sucking, drinking, acting crazy out there. And interestingly, Benedict is known as the Rake, which is perplexing because every man, every season has been called a rake in some way or another, a womanizer, a ladies' man, but there's something particular about Benedict or how he goes about the world that people refer to him as a rake. Derogatory. And Violet is really at her wit's end at this point. She was like, okay, we've done all this. We've done all this. You've had your fun. You've had your dalliances. You've had your fleeting fancies. Settle down and cut the bullshit. I'm gonna need you to find a wife. At this point, all of the other Bridgerton boys are wed. Anthony is wed. Colin even got married before him, and he's younger than Benedict. So there's even more pressure now for him to get your shit in a row, man. A B plot of the season that I find not interesting in the, like, it's interesting on camera, like on TV. It's more so a thought that I was like, this sounds like a bad idea last season. And that is Lady Whistledown. Going into this season, Queen Charlotte is still in contact with Lady Whistledown, aka Penelope. Everyone knows it's Penelope now, as you may recall. So I was perplexed about what they're gonna do with Penelope now. Like, she isn't a salacious, anonymous writer of gossip. She's more so someone requested to entertain the Queen, and in many ways, simply be her propagandist. And again, I had a lot of questions on what they were gonna do with Penelope, and they did what they could, I guess. But again, I find the whole Whistledown story arc through all the seasons to be one of a fucking mess. Basically, since they showed that it's Lady Whistledown, what was that, the end of first season or something? Essentially now, everyone knows who Penelope is. So instead of, I guess, beating her ass, which one could argue would be the first impulse, they've decided to go to their second impulse, which is to get on her good side so that she can spread good words about people and families and build reputations. And so that's like an interesting difference. Now that she is a known person, she's more of like a gossip journalist that people want to send their salacious information to or want to cajole into writing positive things about. I will say one thing about Penelope, and by extension Colin, their chemistry is better this season, which is wild because this ain't even their season. But there are situations where we see them fucking, particularly in that carriage again. I'm gonna need y'all to find solid ground. It seems like, at least in those moments, they actually like each other, and maybe it's because we can extrapolate or ignore maybe all of the other reasons why it wasn't romantic last season, if you're so inclined to do that. It's important to know that they have a chemistry that apparently the other family members are aware of and can observe in them. I think since they've gotten married, and also Francesca has gotten married, her and Penelope have seemed to have built a sort of friendship a little closer than it used to be. And even Francesca noticed they're passionate, can't keep their hands off each other type of energy. Francesca also notices that that's not her experience with her own husband, John Lord Kilmartin. But we'll get on that later because there's a whole story arc about that. And I'll just spoil right now. I love Francesca. That's not a spoiler. I said I love Francesca. I think her story and her character is so endearing, and I'm excited because her story is the head of next season, which they've already released a fucking trailer for. They said, yeah, just so you know, we are filming, bitch. And I'm like, okay. Good to know. But they've built a friendship. Penelope and Eloise are still friends, but there is definitely like a disconnect still present. No longer about Lady Whistledown, just more so they're in different places in life. Penelope is a married woman, and Eloise is joyfully on the shelf, as she so claims. Now she's kind of reveling in the idea of not having to be a part of the marriage mart as much as Violet would want her to be a part of it. Speaking of Violet, Violet again is hosting the first ball, and it is a masquerade ball. And before Benedict makes his way over, he's sure to visit one of his parties where he can remind the audience that he is indeed still bisexual, which is good because I was afraid that they were going to be like, well, he not gay no more because he fallen in love with a woman this season. And it's like, no, he can be bisexual. He likes to. And then he comes to the masquerade ball notably late, and that seems to be his pattern of going about life, kind of when he chooses and when he pleases. Everyone's there getting dressed up. It is a costume party of sorts. I think notably he doesn't come dressed up. Everyone else is. Everyone's especially Eloise. The Joan of Arc bob. She should keep it. She should wear it all the time. That should just be her thing. But I guess she can't be too all the time. But at this party, there is a mysterious unknown woman who comes in a silver bejeweled gown and white gloves. She's wearing a white silvery mask, dark hair. The mask covers most of her face, but her lips and her eyes. And we, the audience, see her as she arrives at the party, and she is cunning in her approach to entering. She's able to swiftly move past the people taking names at the doors and lays her eyes on the extravagance of the ball. And she, unlike the other people, the other goers who are very accustomed to the extravagance of Ton life, she seems new. And she seems keen on how extravagant this experience is, reveling in it wondrously in a way that no one else seems to be. With that said, there are a set of women, 3 women, one older and 2 girls who are presumably her daughters. Whoever can they be? Eventually, this girl catches the eye of Benedict. She's beautiful. She has this wondrous look on her face. She's reveling and enjoying the night in a way that Benedict has not seen anyone else. He asks her to dance, and she tells him that she's never learned to, which is odd because it's very customary of someone in society to have tutelage in that way. And in that moment, Benedict is all but smitten. Whoever this elusive woman in silver is, he is already so engrossed by her. They banter. He gives her dance lessons separate from the rest of the party. They even go so far as share a scandalous kiss. Niggas don't be kissing at the fucking ball. Niggas can't be alone in standing distance with someone of the opposite sex at one of these damn balls, and you niggas kiss? She is forced to leave at midnight when she would have been expected to unmask herself, leaving nothing but a lone glove in the process. She rushes away without ever giving her name, and devastated, he runs out to find her. But she is gone. Thus begins Benedict's hyperfixation on the mysterious lady in silver. Incidentally, this will also be when Queen Charlotte would bet a wager against Penelope about who will be the most eligible man to marry this year. And Queen Charlotte decides to bet on, of all people, the rake of the Ton, Benedict Bridgerton, that he will marry this year, despite the rumor that he has long said he never would. But isn't that all of them every season? Like, isn't that the story, you know? And this wager, amongst various things that Queen Charlotte seems to be doing, is to maintain her... The bitch is bored. The bitch is bored. She wants entertainment. She wants gossip. And there doesn't seem to be that much because people are either too afraid to do things or say things with Penelope around, or if they do give certain information, you can't help but wonder if it feels slanderous to like shift things in one way or another. And so the gossip of Lady Whistledown has quite slowed down. And so one of the things that has kept her entertained is ultimately falling apart in that process. And it doesn't help that also one of the few things that keeps her together fundamentally is also about to wane, and that is Lady Donbury. Lady Donbury, who has long been the Queen's only friend, has decided that she would like to leave London. She would like to go off to her native homeland of, is it Sierra Leone? Was it called Sierra Leone in the 1800s? I don't know. Her home that she has never visited since being 4, and she would like to see the world. She would like to live. Queen Charlotte was like, no.
Should like to leave for a time. No.
No, bitch, you can't go anywhere. And this storyline made me tear up a little bit. Because one, that's crazy as fuck for Queen Charlotte to say that. She was like, I don't give a fuck that you haven't seen your friends and family since you were 4 years old, bitch. You have to stay here because I am your queen. But if we go below that and really look at the emotions of that as slowly gets peeled away through the course of the season, she is scared. Queen Charlotte is scared. She, one, has only had Lady Donbury as her actual friend, basically since she married King George. And now, as George gets older and sicker, Queen Charlotte is constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop when he is eventually dead. And the idea that Lady Donbury would not be there in that circumstance is earth-shattering. And I completely understand. And also, let that bitch go. It was so frustrating. And I was tearing up because you know they love each other. You know they're such great friends. But it's like, baby, you doing her so wrong. And I get it. I see the desperation, the reality that you could be, for all intents and purposes, alone when the love of your life is no longer with you, especially if that's going closer and closer to what that is. But that entire story is so fucking frustrating and bittersweet. And I cried and it's heartbreaking. And man, that's a good, that was good. Especially if you've seen Queen Charlotte. Again, watch that video if you haven't seen my Queen Charlotte video, or just watch the season because it's good, baby. Whew. But it made me mad. She's like, no, you can't go nowhere. I need you here. You are my oldest friend. No. 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 Back to our mysterious lady in silver. Come to find out, she is actually a maid by the name of Sophie Peck, who works as Lady Araminta Penwood's main maid, essentially. But that is not all of it. Araminta has 2 daughters, Posy and the other one, Rosamund. Rosamund don't matter. I fuck with Posy though. She had 2 daughters from her first marriage. That man would pass away, and then she would venture on to marry Lord Penwood, who would also pass away. And Sophie Peck is actually the illegitimate daughter of the late Lord Penwood, who was allowed to stay with Lady Penwood as a maid after his death. By the time that Lord and Lady Penwood were wed, Sophie was already born. Her mother had passed away in childbirth, and her mother was also a maid. So her father is of nobility, her mother was lower class, and by proxy, it seems that after his death, she was treated as a bad omen by Lady Penwood, and especially the one stepsister, Rosamund. Like Rosamund, bitch. Stone cold, terrible bitch. Posy, so adorable and so autistic. She's so great. I love her. She's another one. Let's get a Posy season. Yes, I love Posy. That would be a whole side quest that we didn't know nothing about from no books, because I don't think Posy even exists in real life, does she? She might. Again, I don't remember that specific of the book, but Posy and Rosamund have made their debut recently, and Sophie, despite also being a Penwood by blood, has again been relocated to servitude, with Araminta saying that her father left her nothing in his will when he died. So this is a fact that Sophie finds hard to believe, considering she believed her father loved her, but alas, she has been saved, quote unquote, by Lady Penwood, who was kind enough to give the illegitimate child work. She would make friends with her other co-workers. That would encourage her to take an heirloom dress from a deceased Lady Penwood and go to Lady Bridgerton's masquerade herself. Go experience. You're just as valid in deserving to explore this as the fucking other two girls. You're actually related to the dude that died. Those his stepdaughters. You deserve at least one magical night in society. And so she does that. There, she meets Lord Bridgerton. She hides her identity. She has a kiss with him. She has this magical night. And then when the clock strikes 12, she is forced to return to reality. But little does she know, Benedict has not given up on finding her yet. And instead, he spends his days drawing what he remembers of her. Her face, her outfit, a small necklace she was wearing, her hair. But ultimately, there's certain identifying features that he can't seem to remember or place on the canvas. I find this particularly funny because in his search for this mysterious woman, Benedict doesn't seem to realize that Sophie is Asian. I think he took being colorblind a bit more seriously to the extent that he's going around town asking black and white women if, looking for the mysterious lady in silver, and he's looking at black and white women. There's like 4 Asian bitches in this city, like I'm sure. Anyway, while that's going on, let's talk about another subplot, which is another favorite of mine this season, Violet Bridgerton and Mr. Sexy Anderson. I don't know what his first name. Marcus is not sexy. His first name isn't sexy. It's Marcus, but Marcus Anderson. If you recall in last season, which was also a pullover from Queen Charlotte, that they got a vibe. Violet is in her blooming garden time, though still dealing with her apprehensions of leading forth a sexual life in the 15 or so years it's been since her late love of her life, Edmund, died. But she's actually enjoying a very palatable flirtation with Mr. Anderson. If you recall, Mr. Anderson is Lady Danbury's brother, and so he's around. And I bet he is sexy bald head nigga. Like, he fine as fuck. He got a fat ass, but we're too early to talk. He caked up. Ooh, I love niggas with fat asses. I just feel like it's so nice. It's just, they so, ooh. Okay. So yeah, Violet and Marcus Anderson are going to progress their story along for the season. And I was cheering, bitch. Yes, she deserves it. I love Violet. I heard a rumor, I don't know how based in reality it is, but that they might do a Violet prequel. They might do a Violet one like they did for Queen Charlotte. And I'm like, I'm so sad, bitch. Give it to me. I love Violet. Back to Benedict. He's still losing this war of figuring out who this mysterious woman is, but he doesn't want to tell his mother about anything in regards to it. I think it's partially because he just doesn't want to hear her talking about like, oh, so you do want to get married. It's like, nah. So instead he decides to go to Penelope, considering again, she gets all the gossip. So perhaps she would have some way of letting him know about this mysterious woman. So she puts it in Lady Whistledown that Benedict is looking for a mysterious woman with no real descriptors specifically on what she looks like, so that she isn't ruined, because they would know that she left with a man and was with a man unsupervised, which by itself can ruin your reputation, let alone kissed him, let alone to find out she broke in, but they don't know that yet. So now every woman of the ton is like, oh, I saw Benedict at the ball. He must have been talking about me. He must have been talking about me. And so they're all going to talk to him. And he's like, okay, it's none of y'all. And despite his best efforts to try to hide his search for this mysterious woman in silver, Violet does end up finding out about it. And she basically says, you should have told me because I could have helped you find her, because it's pretty clear looking at this glove, it has a Penwood House emblem inside. It's an heirloom. It's probably somebody living at Penwood House. So Benedict heads over and Araminta and the daughters think that he's there to chat with Posey, the nice autistic one. And she is so adorable and I love her and she's so weird.
All of a sudden my hands became feet and I was forced to walk across the stage with my feet hands.
I love that bitch. I knew you weren't the person he was talking about, but you deserve love. You a weird girl, and I love a weird bitch. You're great. While he's there, Sophie does end up seeing him through the door, but she's hiding behind in the shadows, essentially, because she's afraid to meet Benedict again, because he's not there to meet Sophie Peck, the maid. He's there to meet the fantasy of the mysterious woman in silver, and she doesn't exist. So she decides to stay away, stay unknown, and let him continue his search for this mysterious person that, as far as she is concerned, is but a fantasy. But once he leaves, Lady Penwood would notice that he seemed to be looking at a glove that was worn by a random woman that night at the masquerade ball. And she can't help but wonder, based on some clues that Benedict said, if perhaps Sophie is the woman in the silver dress, namely because he has the Penwood gloves, and also she found scuffs on one of her favorite shoes that Sophie actually wore at the masquerade. And then later she would find a silver dress under her mattress, and it all put together that he was seduced and deceived by this wretch who committed the crime of impersonating nobility. After all I've done for you, after taking you in when your father died. So she confronts Sophie. And Sophie's like, bitch, why did you take me in after my daddy died? It's not like you like me, bitch. You ain't got no kindness in your heart. I'm sorry. You don't like me. You don't like me. There's no kindness in your heart. You don't like me, you old cold-hearted bitch. Like, why are we here? And then Araminta is like, you know what? You're right. You're fired. And you'll never work in this town again if I have anything to say about it. And so Sophie is forced to leave at a moment's notice. And the only thing she has on her are essentially the clothes on her back, the remaining glove, some pocket money the other servants were able to pool together, and a bejeweled shoe clip that Posey would steal from her mother and would tell Sophie to sell if she ever needed money. And so she takes it, she's on her way, and she goes to sell the shoe clips only to find out they're fake. And so she doesn't make money off of that. The pawn owner, the pawnster, what is the name of a person who owns a pawn shop? The guy you pawn on to? I don't know. The jeweler? Is he a jeweler? I guess he knows jewels. That dude. He's like, here's some money. It might be able to get you a stagecoach. If you want to give me that necklace that you're wearing, maybe perhaps I can give you more for that. But she says, no, it's special to me and I will keep it. We'll soon find out that is the sole item that she was left by her deceased mother, who she didn't really know that well. If I'm not mistaken, she died when she was very young. So it is the one thing that she has close to her in regards to the mother that she barely knew. Meanwhile, Benedict is, I guess, resorting to his usual revelries, only he finds no joy in it. Isn't that how it go? Pussy don't pop the same. Dick don't swing the same. And while at one of these parties, he ends up striking up a conversation with one of the men there who talks to him openly about how he has fallen in love and taken a mistress. He has fallen in love with said mistress is what I'm saying. And though this is not an uncommon thing, obviously, it's honestly one of the most common things to happen amongst the Ton marriages. It is the first time in a while the conversation of mistresses have come up. The closest thing we had up until this was Anthony and that random opera singer from season 1. But this is the first time in a while we've really scrutinized the possibility of that, of a mistress. Incidentally, serendipitously, if you will, as if it's not written like this, he ends up overhearing a ruckus at this party, and he ends up seeing that two women were arguing with pushy, gross, drunk men who are the owners of the establishment he was partying at. They get very physically aggressive towards these women, and one of them is Sophie. This is the job she has taken after being kicked out from Araminta Penwood. Benedict comes over, he saves the day, he's fighting, he's struggling. In the struggle, he lands on broken glass. Ugh. But eventually overpowers the other man and screams at him to apologize to Sophie. And despite his opponent's obvious objections, because she's just a maid, he does apologize and fires her because... Sure. Misogyny makes no sense. Why would you fire her because you're an asshole? But sure. But in this moment, she sees Benedict, and she also sees that Benedict does not recognize her as the woman in silver. But as a gentleman, he does offer her a ride and safe travels to find new work. And on their travels, it begins to rain horribly, and he decides instead that the two of them should rest at a place he refers to as my cottage, the name that he has given his cottage. Little on the nose. I think it's fun. I think it's funny, but a little on the nose. They decide to wait it out there, especially because that nigga has a puncture wound on his abdomen that he was very nonchalant about. Yeah, he got it from the broken glass that he fell on. They both go to bed in separate rooms. She is awoken by him screaming bloody murder because he's having a horrible fever-driven nightmare. And luckily, Sophie is able to tend to him with alcohol and bandages so that he doesn't die of pride as well, because he refused to tell her that his wounds were as bad as they were. Gotta say, I'll admit, this was one of those moments when I realized I have a tinge of a sadistic streak, because men writhing is hot. I don't know if I should be concerned about that, but not enough to change. I rewatched him sweating and like over it. You guys remember when years ago there was the one chip challenge, the one like really spicy chip, and you could see who could survive eating it and not drinking water or something like that? And I remember I watched this guy do it. He was in so much pain. He was sweating, breathing hard, neck all cored up. And I was just like, oh, this is an awakening for me. This was similar. So after Sophie was fired from Penwood House, Araminta was forced to get 4 new maids in her stead because she didn't account for the fact that Sophie did everything. This resulted in her kind of poaching maids from other women of the Ton, which would start a movement, a workers' movement of sorts called the Maid Wars, where essentially maids realized how valuable of a work they do for these people and started to request larger payment, which they deserve, period. The fuck? And again, this season takes on a lot more about class than I think the other seasons did. Well, I should say it does it a lot more explicitly, because up until now, Bridgerton has, for the most part, been about love amongst those of similar prestige. But obviously, because Sophie is a maid, class is innately in question. So this is mirrored in the Maid Wars, namely because Lady Featherington, who we haven't talked about much thus far, and her head servant Varley end up being on the outs because of that. I just have an opinion about this one particular part. I don't know how much I'll go into the Varley Lady Featherington thing, but there is a part where essentially Varley is one of those people being scouted, so to speak, to work elsewhere. And Lady Featherington is like, oh, but you're family. And I can't pay family really much better than that. But I will give you these ugly dresses that you will never wear, because where the fuck would a maid wear these? And even if you did have a place to wear them, they're ugly. And even if you didn't think they were ugly and you had a place to wear them, when the fuck would you have time to go anywhere wearing these ugly ass dresses? The 60-year-old Lady Varley. So eventually she does end up leaving Varley and ends up going to, of all people, Araminta Penwood, who is awful in every sense. She was terrible to Sophie, so she's terrible to Varley as well. But she was seduced by the prospect of more money, so it is what it is. Okay, back to the My Cottage time. When they get to the home, it is empty, but he has a old married couple named the Crabtrees that run the home while he's away. And they're very sweet. They take good care of the home because this is one of his side houses. So basically they just live there for free and take care of it as if it's their house. And then he comes every once in a while and they take care of him when he's there. And they also take great care of Benedict while he heals, and also Sophie, as she is called a guest, which is interesting because it seems like this is the first time she's ever been a guest at a house before. She doesn't know what to do with that. She doesn't know what to do with her free time, her lack of duties around the house. And so that leaves time for her to wander the home and wander the grounds. She ventures one day into his painting room / library, and this is where we get one of those close quarters with a lot of books and candlelight situations that Bridgerton loves to do. They chat about her reading, how he's surprised that she is a maid that can read, which isn't the most common thing in the world. She knows a lot about art, more than one would think a maid would have the luxury to learn about. She speaks French, better than he does. She says that a lot of these things that she has, these abilities or privileges that she's had, is because the woman that took her in was kind enough to let her sit in on the children's lessons. But it is something that is very interesting. You know, it's strange. She's so complex for someone that theoretically the average maid wouldn't have access to. But I think more importantly than anything, they vibe. They vibe mightily. And it would seem that being in such close proximity does not make things much easier, especially as he still here and there has the wandering imaginations of that unknown lady in silver. Back to Francesca. Remember I said that there's this thing with her and Penelope? Well, essentially, Francesca is starting to feel a lot of guilt, namely that she's been married for a little while, less than a year, but she's been married for a little while to John, and they have yet to conceive, to the extent that it's starting to concern her. And while chatting about this with John, he basically says, you know, conception, I hear, is easier when a woman reaches her, quote, pinnacle. Unfortunately, Francesca has no idea what the fuck that means. Sex up until now hasn't been unpleasant or unwelcome. Her and John have a love between them, both inside and outside of the bedroom, but it certainly isn't this rapturous passion or crazy animalistic yearning that she hears other people talk about, particularly Penelope. Like, she gets this sense that there's just sex all over her. You know, her and Colin, they have this, which is also gross because she's like, oh, that's my brother. But Penelope seems so happy. And again, this is hilarious given last season Colin and Penelope had no fucking chemistry. Again, I do think they did better this season with that. Now, maybe it's because, again, we don't have to sit there and remind ourselves, like, didn't he say absolutely not, you bald head dumb bitch, when you were listening to him talk shit about you to his friends? So they fuck in the carriage again, Penelope and Colin. She's so sexed up, it's on her. And Francesca is like, what the fuck is the pinnacle? And Penelope doesn't explain what it means because they're in public. And so later she goes to the worst person she should honestly go to about this, Violet, who, if you've seen from other seasons, she's not good at this. And there's something endearing about that in a way. It's like, damn, this is not her strong suit. Stop going to your mama for this. I don't know who you're supposed to go to. And theoretically, you would hope you can go to her for it, but this is not her strong suit. You will leave more confused than you were before. And so she does. And so now she finds herself in this position where she knows bits and pieces about what the pinnacle might be. And so she's struggling with the feeling that she's deficient in some way. She's not doing something right. And therefore, that's why she hasn't given John a baby, which feels like her ultimate duty. John isn't putting that pressure on her. He's very much so like, you know, we have so much time. We can take our time. We can just enjoy each other. We don't have to rush this. And this is our learning experience. I love John. Back to Benedict and Sophie. They are getting close. Both of them are aware of why that's a bad idea, but Benedict less so because, again, he kind of goes with the flow in a way that's very annoying. Sometimes it is. He do piss me off regularly in this season as well, but they enjoy each other. There's a magnetism. They have fun doing innocuous things like flying a kite. And something that seems very innocuous on the surface does make Mrs. Crabtree in particular concerned because they're interacting in a way as if he doesn't see her as a maid and he doesn't see her as like a sibling. There's something there. If he were to dally with her, it could ruin her prospects of earning money to live, prospect of her finding a new job, prospects of her, you know, maybe marrying someone in the future. He could really ruin her. And her fears are valid. They're not coming out of nowhere because, incidentally, while that's happening, Sophie is happening upon Benedict while he's naked swimming in the lake. Which, side note, I understand that this scene was supposed to be hot. I could not ignore how dirty that fucking water was. It don't look like it's moving water. It doesn't look like it's been going around. It's just frog shit and moss. And I'm just like, oh, ew. And you naked, you're gonna get a tapeworm. This is a culmination where she's like, oh my God, I ran in on him naked, and he gets dressed, and it continues this bantering and bickering as one does in a Bridgerton, especially in the lead up to everything reaching a fever pitch. And they are standing all too close. they kiss. And though it is their second time, only one of them is aware of that. The aftermath is awkward, but it sends Sophie reeling. And Mrs. Crabtree, suspecting that Sophie and Benedict are canoodling or beyond that, she talks to both of them like, hey, chill the fuck out. Especially to Benedict, like, her being your maid makes her at the mercy of your station. But he insists they are only friends and that there's nothing that she has to worry about. Especially because he is going to take her into the city soon to find work, and they will not need to see each other ever again. In theory. Another sub-story I don't really care about. The Mondriches. I've never cared about the Mondriches, so this is not new. But Lady Danbury has started making acquaintances with Lady Mondrich. Alice, I believe. And it's pretty clear that Lady Danbury is looking to recommend Alice to be the next lady in waiting for the Queen so that she will let Lady Danbury leave to do her voyage back to the homeland, with the hopes that Alice is so good at this that she's able to be a true friend to the Queen in ways that other people weren't able to. I guess the theory is that Alice Mondrich was not always a person of the ton. She has a realism to her that she can bring to Queen Charlotte, but Queen Charlotte isn't like all over it. She's like, no, bitch, I want my friend. You can't just give me some other hoe and be like, yeah, this is your new friend. Like, girl, fuck you. Also, Alice Mondrich don't really want to be a lady in waiting either. She did not ask for that. And Lady Danbury is like, bitch, this is a privilege. You do not simply turn down the Queen. And she's like, I didn't ask to be a part of the Queen's thing, and she don't want me. You want me to be. Anyway, long story short, she becomes a lady in waiting, and I guess she's good at the job eventually, so good for her. Back to Francesca and not being able to pop her pussy. So Francesca goes back to Penelope and she's like, hey, I'm gonna need y'all to stop using euphemisms. I talk to my mama. She don't know what the fuck she talking about. She don't know how to talk to me. What is a pinnacle? No euphemisms, no metaphors. I want what coming is. And so Penelope obliges as much as she can. And this leads Francesca to wonder if she has ever felt this sensation that everyone is going on about, which does lead her to overcompensate sexually, basically faking it. And luckily, John is so patient and understanding. He's like, I never want you to fake it. I want you to feel good. And I want to work with you and figuring out, again, we have all this time. Incidentally, Violet is also very nervous about pursuing a sexual relationship, but with Mr. Anderson, sexy bald head nigga. I want to rub that spit shine it. And it's very cute. They have so much chemistry. Honestly, more than anybody since Anthony and Kate and Charlotte and George. Honestly, so much chemistry. Oh my God. And it's been bleeding through more than one season at this point and more than one occasion. It's so slow. And I don't know, they real cute. They finally kiss in the drawing room and they play classical Paramore All I Wanted Was You. And as stupid as it sounds, it worked. It was good. It would seem, though, that frustratingly, whenever they want to be alone, there's always people around. But good thing, her lady's maid is a real one. And she's like, hey, we can make an excuse to get everyone out of here. Your kids, all the servants, anybody. I will help you do that because you deserve to get some dick. She say better words that are more eloquent. She's like, life is meant to be lived. But what she said is, go get some dick, girl. It's been a long time. You deserve it. They use the euphemism of inviting someone over for tea, and the maid is like, everyone drinks tea, Mom. Get you some dick, girl. Get some cream and don't come in her. They don't have the stuff for that. They don't have protections for that. Remember when I said that Benedict was going to help Sophie find a job? Well, that job is at Bridgerton House. In fairness, it wasn't that he wasn't asking around, but Lady Araminta Penwood been going around talking shit about her all over the town, so now nobody wants to hire her. So he goes to Violet, he's like, hey, can we hire her? And Violet's a little skeptical because, again, she's heard the gossip about this girl, but she also hears how she saved Benedict's life. And that is enough for her to be more than willing to bring her in. Sophie makes friends very quickly with the staff. And Benedict was also kind enough to bring the other friend that was fired from the scuffle at that one guy's house. He even got her hired as well so that they know each other. And that's awesome. But as one would assume, it does seem that Benedict being around presents its own challenges. One interesting issue being that, again, he's still looking for the mysterious lady in silver, though it does seem to be waxing and wavering and inconsistent because he is conflicted that he also has undeniable feelings for Sophie, another person that he can't grasp because she's a maid. The Bridgerton sisters are immediately taken with Sophie, especially Eloise. She really loves learning about her outlook on literature her and her interesting experiences being, you know, where did you have these? But she speaks several languages. And eventually, with how taken they are with her, Violet is very excited to ask her to stay permanently. Originally, her work there was only until she gets settled and finds something else. But she's such a great fit. But again, this is even more difficult because Benedict keep winding up in candlelit romantic ass rooms with nobody else there but her. But she is doing a good job reminding herself that this is a bad idea. One of the reasons she's able to do that is because she always has the necklace that her mother left for her. Her mother was left with nothing because she fell in love with a nobleman, and she would never want to do that as well. So instead, she recloses herself into her room. She tries to do a little coochie DJ, but it pales at the thought of the real thing, which I'm like, how do you know what the real thing feel like? She's just annoyed, and she's like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I want them. As the search for the lady in silver continues, Violet ends up hearing that it may be a woman named Miss Hollis. She never had dance lessons, has dark hair, is white. He didn't seem to tell people that she's Asian, the woman he's looking for, or maybe he didn't notice. I'm genuinely so perplexed. Even with a mask on, that isn't, like, she's a clearly Asian woman. Anyway, so they bring this white woman in and they're chatting, and the entire time, he has an obvious fixation on Sophie. Also, during the conversation, it's pretty clear that this isn't the woman in silver. Miss Hollis didn't come to the masquerade. She couldn't make it. And this is very interesting and awkward and frustrating and just a clusterfuck of feelings for Sophie. As you can imagine, as she's watching the guy she's kissed chat with a potential wife, as he's looking for a woman that she knows that she is, it's a lot. So the night has come for Lady Bridgerton, Violet Bridgerton, to get some dick. And luckily that maid, who was a real one, she got everybody to get out. She basically said to the other Bridgertons, go hang out at Francesca's house. Yeah, they were gonna have a get together. And then all of a sudden, Violet can't make it. She's sick. I'm sick. And then all the other servants, she's like, get the fuck out. I don't care where you go. Have fun. You can't be here though. And so she readies herself to have a night of passion. She's very nervous. She like looks at her body in the mirror, and you can tell that she has a lot of anxiety around, like, will she be perceived as sexy? She's older. She's had 8 children. She's, you know, she has a lot of anxieties, but she's like, I want this. I want it. And I bet you do, bitch. So Violet gets all gussied up. She gets them lifted in her chin. She lays on the bed. He thinks he's coming for tea, but I am the tea you're having.
Am I to understand that this means?
I am the tea that you are having.
He take his pants off, show that fat ass, and she shows how she made all them damn kids. I am the tea, bitch. Absolutely. Whew! Goddamn. I am such a fan of all this man ass going around these days. I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years, TV has really embraced man ass, and I love it. More. Meanwhile, we're back at Francesca and John Kilmartin's home, where, without alerting them beforehand, his cousin, Michaela, again, the gender swap person from last season, at the end of last season, she pops up, comes to visit, says she's staying for a while. Because we don't really see their time in Scotland, all we've seen is the first time Francesca saw Michaela, and this kind of uncomfortable, unspoken, tense energy. What is it between these two? We don't know. We don't know what is it between these two, that they just have a friction that is really hard to explain. At this point, Francesca seems a bit crestfallen that Michaela has arrived, namely because Michaela and John are quite close, to the extent that she occupies a lot of his time. Also, apparently, back in Scotland, Michaela didn't really make an effort to get to know Francesca. And honestly, this is back when niggas was marrying their fucking cousins. I have a problem with it too, bitch. You seem to be way too close to my nigga, but that's not where it's coming from. You can tell that's not where it's coming from. I would be like, people be marrying their first cousins. It's 1813, bitch. I'm gonna need you to stay away from my nigga. Period. But alas, they just can't seem to get on the same page. These two people that are very important to him. So Sophie goes out with the other servants. They're gonna have a time, go to a pub or something, you know, relax. But she forgets her coin purse. And on the way back, she runs into Benedict. and it's on like popcorn. They he going at it. He's like, lift her up. He licked the fingers. He in there digging in her shit on the stairwell. And I'm like, damn, for motherfuckers that said we need to be careful on the stairwell, that's great. That's mess. I love it. However, in the buildup, I was reminded of the book. I vaguely remembered that Benedict says something that like throws ice water on it. And I was like, he's gonna do it right here, isn't he? This is where he does it. So they're making out. He's digging in her shit. He confesses how much he's transfixed on her, how he wants to give her better, how he wants to be everything for her. He wants her to be his mistress.
Be my mistress.
Dog, I remember when I read that, I threw that book so far across the room. I was like, what is this bullshit? You got me reading 200 pages into this book and this nigga had to say, can you be my mistress? Nigga, fuck you. I remember chucking that damn book across the room. Niggas ain't shit. And good for her. She's like, she don't even say no. She just leaves. She's like, what the fuck? And again, it's a crazy thing to say, especially in modern times. Like, that's wild. But can you be my side bitch? Nigga, what? Especially though, in the context, again, of Sophie being the child of a nobleman's mistress. Her turning away from it is so brazen in a way that's, I think, a lot of people don't really give her a lot of credit for. Or it's not that they don't give her credit, but I think it's very interesting to think of this in the context of the rest of the normalities of the time. Like, essentially, a nobleman's mistress is about the highest honor a titleless maid and illegitimate child could aspire to. But because she feels so strongly that she does not want to be like her mother, she said, nigga, fuck you. She's not aspiring to be a man's mistress. If anything, she wants to leave and find new work and be nowhere near this nigga. And so after that, she says, yeah, Violet, can you write me a letter of recommendation? I would like to work elsewhere, maybe work in my hometown. Only for that to make Violet more suspicious that Sophie is perhaps not as lowly as her maid status would assume. She asked about her hometown and she was like, oh, isn't that place really known for its owls or something? And she's like, yeah, it's great owls. And apparently they're known for their pigeons or some shit. I don't know. They're ducks. They're known for their ducks. And she didn't know that. So it was like, is that where you're from? I feel like there's more to you that we don't know. But Sophie wants to leave. She wants to leave, and she needs to, because as we, the audience, will find out, she has a new neighbor. It would seem that a new Lord Penwood has been found since the death of the late Penwood, and that he has recently been married, and that they will be moving into Penwood House. Therefore, Araminta, the stepmother, and the two stepsisters will be needing to move. And they just so happen to be moving into the home next door to the Bridgertons. He does some shit. Hi, this is Editing Kenny. This video is too damn long, so I'm going to split it in two. I realized too late that if I put it up now, it would be 2 hours. A 2-hour video on Bridgerton season 4 is insane.